in Nasarawa State has confirmed the arrest of a gospel singer, Timileyin Ajayi, who was apprehended in Agwan Sarki Uruzo in Nasarawa State for allegedly beheading his girlfriend. Now, the Nasarawa State Police spokesperson Rahman Anansel confirmed that the suspect was nabbed on Sunday after a motorcyclist transporting him noticed blood dripping from the suspect's luggage. Alarmed by the discovery, the motorcyclist raised an alarm, drawing the attention of a nearby crowd. An angry mob descended on the suspect, but the police, acting on the directive of the commissioner, swiftly intervened and rescued him from being lynched. The suspect, who sustained injuries, was taken to an undisclosed hospital for medical attention, and a subsequent investigation led the authorities to execute a search warrant at his residence. During the search, the remains of a young woman now identified as 24-year-old Eleojo Salome Adaidu, a National Youth Service Corps member staying and serving in Nyanya in FCT Abuja, was recovered. The Commissioner of Police has since ordered a thorough investigation which remains ongoing. Let's take a look at this clip, come back and discuss.
What is her name?
Her name is Adaidu.
Adaidu. Which tribe is she?
It don't matter.
Adaidu. No, Adaidu. Well, for how long have you been together? Like a year. My man was just telling me that somebody is just I just stopped a car. That is like I just stopped a car and I stopped one young boy was part of the human being doing it that he offered to give me 100 million. I refused. That was what my mind was. It's as if I'm just dreaming. I swear to Almighty God. It's as if I'm just dreaming that the guy I offered to give me 100 million. I said no, I will not collect the 100 million.
This one?
No.
You can even see that police officer is saying that he was bribing him bribing him with 100 million naira if he let him go. There have been people that have come out to actually say that wasn't his girlfriend, that she was abducted by him. But it's still ongoing. Let's start with you, Ayo.
Right, so the investigation is still ongoing, but of course this is the power of social media where we're able to access such videos, such incidents in different parts of the country and the world. It's also a sad reflection of society where people are desperate or take on desperate measures or means to acquire wealth. And this is what we have seen. Even though, to be fair, until we investigate the reason for this, we cannot ascertain. It's just that the assumptions are whether he's a Yahoo boy or how people sell parts for in exchange for money or for money rituals. That's what a lot of people are suspecting. But what I'm glad is that despite the people wanting to lynch him, that the police rescued him. Some people might say, why did they rescue him? Look at what he did. Let them just kill him. No, we need to ask him questions because usually they don't act alone. There's usually a big cartel, a big chain, a criminal gang behind him. So we don't want just the apprehension of this young man, Timileyin Ajayi. We want to hear the people behind him. It might shock us, the powers that be that are supporting this move. He's just down the value chain. Yes, he's just down the food chain. And so we need to find out the people behind, who is reporting to, who is going to sell the bodies to, because that would then be a bigger win in this instance. It is very sad that a life has been lost, a promising one at that, during her NYC, a 24-year-old promising young Nigerian. And so I'm hoping that we will not just see a sensationalizing of this issue, but a thorough investigation, and that all those involved would be apprehended. It's becoming a menace in society where we see these, young girls are not safe, young boys are not safe, where body parts are being sold. So great to see that he's been apprehended. Then the other part of it is this gospel singer part of it where they've been touting, and you can understand why. We saw that his music that he was playing, because it's almost like dual personality, Jekyll and Hyde. Daytime, he masquerades as this pious young man, and in the dark, he's now this evil person who is, doing these evil atrocities. So it's important to also see, the Bible says, by their fruits you shall know them. It's not only those who come out and be preaching and be singing that are true. Sometimes you need to investigate people's sources of income. If they are spending beyond their means, you need to find out why. So these are some of the things that has revealed, the moral decadence in society. But most importantly, let those who are behind this operation be apprehended and prosecuted.
Very well said, Doctor.
Well, Section 33 of the 1999 Constitution talks about right to life. Nobody has the right to take another person's life, except under constitutionally sanctioned circumstances. In other words, if a court of law of proper jurisdiction, properly constituted, says, oh, this person has committed this offense, and the punishment under the laws is death. penalty. But in this case, we've had cases in Nigeria here where people just take laws into their hands and they go and kill other persons. Now, some of the reasons given will seem to be ritual purposes. This gentleman, Timileyin Ajayi, is said to have done this for ritual purposes. And we've had so many cases like that. Because of poverty, deprivation, or perhaps illness. People, think that they can kill the other person to get ahead. I've said illness because in criminal law, one defense will be insanity, that you can plead. But that also has to be proven medically that, okay, maybe this person, he has a mental problem and all of that. But that's for the courts to determine. In other words, we're saying that this is a matter that should be properly investigated, and the Timileyin Ajayi fellow should be made to have his day in court. We commiserate with the family of the deceased, Miss Enejo, Salome Adaidu, 24 years old. She had finished university education, doing youth corps, and then this happens. Whether she's a girlfriend or not, also, it's important for young ladies, to also be very cautious because, some of these boys out there, whether gospel singer or the people they call Favoraja, all kinds of people posturing, deceiving women. It's very easy. These are emotional robbers, cheating girls and all that and misleading them. It's just for people also to be very careful, particularly for those young girls, who are, interested in some other things beyond, modesty. So this is the point. Let the police do their work. Nobody has the right to take another person's life. He's been described as a gospel singer. Well, I don't know. Yes, he may be singing the gospel, but we know that these are end times. We have criminals also going to church, and they can cover up, either hiding under the gospel, hiding under some kind of competence, or preaching the gospel. Have you not had cases of even pastors committing crimes? In other words, we end with a statement that it's only God that knows who is serving him. It's very easy for somebody to say, I'm a Christian, but only God sees your mind and knows whether you are truly a Christian or, a pretender, as in Wale Soyinka's The Trials of Brother Jero, a play that talks about religious charlatanism, which seems to be an established tradition in Nigeria.
Thank you so much for that, Doctor. Let's take the next story and we'll start the comments with you, Vimbai. Shocking footage has surfaced of a Lagos boutique owner allegedly mistreating his female employee over theft allegations. In the disturbing video, which shows the young woman being brutally beaten by her employer and two other men, the employer, identified as the owner of the Don Maserati Classic Boutique on Lagos Island, reportedly accused her of this theft. Now, reacting to the video, the Lagos State Police Public Relations Officer, CSP Benjamin Hundeyin, said they had arrested 3 suspects out of the men and tried to establish contact with the victim. Let's take a look, come back and discuss. That video went on for a very long time. I just had to take it for 10 seconds because it was even very harrowing to watch. And, one thing stands out for me. We're talking about a woman, a young girl that was killed, and now we're seeing this slightly older woman being beaten by 4 men. Yes, she stole, but is it worth what they've done? Vimbai.
I believe it was last week we were having a conversation about workers' rights, labor rights here in Nigeria, and whether they are being enforced, and it's clear that they are not. Yes, she stole, she's being accused of having stolen, but this is not how you treat workers. And, it's a manifestation of a smaller problem that gets bigger and bigger, which is what employers have absolute impunity. Often what happens, especially in this level of job, is that these workers are no better than slaves. That's the honest truth to you, because they cannot stand up for anything. You don't know how many hours per day she's working. You don't know under which conditions she is working. You don't know the half of what she's enduring. If she stole, she definitely needs to face the wrath of the law, and she needs to go through that process. I'm not justifying that. But I'm saying for her to be treated like this, you can only imagine how much is her salary? Do they even pay her salary on time? Well, you have to ask, what conditions is she treated for them to now feel that if she makes a mistake or she does the wrong thing, they even have the right not to call the police or not to go to, not to go through the correct process. Yes, but to rather lash her. Like
4 of them.
Four men on this lady. I mean, this is just ridiculous. But to me, it's a reflection of the fact that workers' rights, yes, enshrined in the Constitution, workers do have rights here in Nigeria. But is it actionable? Is it? Can you execute it? Can you go to court? I shared my experience that in South Africa, just try and make your domestic staff, your house help, make her work 1 more hour than you agreed in your contract. You'll end up in court. Just try and underpay, you will end up in court. So it's a question of how empowered are our workers to be able to stand against their employers. Most times, not very empowered. Contract. So there needs to be a contract to be enforced in the first place. And spot on, low-level workers in Nigeria, and this is something I've said that perhaps the NLC needs to work really hard to address. The conditions of service. No, and it's not just low level. Sometimes it's just elevated or customized slavery. A lot of people are facing. But let me go to the actions of these young men. Did you see the glee on some of the faces of the men when they were whipping her? They were whipping her like she was an animal. There was a young man there who was doing that. He was behaving as if it was, there he is in the white shirt. It was his life ambition, just something he had been looking forward to doing. Terrible. And this is what we talk about jungle justice, which I had referred to in the previous story. We are just so quick as a people. I don't know whether there's this elevated anger. Any small thing, it is bring out the knife, bring out the whip, bring out the tire, burn, kill, destroy. Why is that? So we need to even investigate that psychologically as a people in Nigeria. Why is there such a penchant or a resort to violence at the slightest provocation? So that's one. The other thing is the power of social media, and I'm really glad that social media highlighted this video. I say this because behind this woman who was flogged, there are many others, thousands, who are facing worse conditions, who, because of a piecemeal, are almost killed in some instances or grievously harmed by their employers with no consequences. Whether it's the rich, the poor, across all strata, everyone and their big manism. So we need to address it fundamentally as a people, what is wrong with us psychologically and mentally. And number 2, legally, by ensuring that the people who are who are apprehended are brought to book. And so, kudos to the police for acting swiftly and arresting and trying to find out the others. But this has to end. This culture of violence, this culture of jungle justice has to end. So, let's hope that these men will be used as an example and that people be empowered. Of course, kudos to
the Nigerian police force for acting swiftly.
They did very quickly.
They arrested 3 of them. They're still looking for 1 more. Doctor, I want to take the last story and then we'll come back and I want you to please comment on this story and the next one. So let's quickly take our last story. A 12-year-old girl named Esther has been raped by 5 boys in Okpela Estako East local government area of Edo State. Esther was sent on an errand by her mom, and on her way back, these boys whisked her into an uncompleted building where they carried out the heinous act of rape, molestation, and harassed her. And as if that wasn't enough, they went ahead to record the act and post it on social media. According to the young girl, vigilantes and hunters arrested the boys, brought them to the market square, where the case was judged by the community elders. Let's listen to Esther come back and discuss.
Esther.
What's your name?
Esther.
What class?
Primary 5.
Which school?
Atayukai Primary School.
What happened? Where were you caught by the boys?
My mother sent me on an errand to buy thread for plaiting hair. It was while I was on my way that the boys pursued me and caught me, took me to an uncompleted building, tore my clothes, and started raping me one after the other. They held me down and closed my mouth.
When were you caught by the boys that you didn't shout?
I shouted, but they held my mouth.
How many of them in total?
There were 4 boys, and the 5th boy was holding a phone during the video.
So after the video and everything, they ran away?
Yes.
So what now happened? Who now came to your rescue while you were lying down there helpless?
I managed to get home.
So you now told your mother what happened?
Yes, I told you.
What was her response?
She asked us to wait for my stepfather to come back first.
So what was your stepfather's response when he returned to find out what happened?
He reported the incident to vigilantes, hunters. The vigilantes and hunters went and arrested the boys and brought them to the market square, where the case was judged by the community elders. They now took me to the hospital from there.
Hope you have eaten. Can you stand? Stand up and walk around for me. Let's see. I apologize for that. Definitely very harrowing. She's been through so much. And at this point, people are just calling out, for justice for Esther. Dr. Abati, let's start with that.
Well, yes, justice for Esther. Because rape is a criminal offense under Section 357 of the Constitution, of the Criminal Code. You cannot go and rape somebody without consent. And in any case, this is even more than rape. These 5 demons that were said to have assaulted this child, because she's 12 years old, she's not even in a position to give consent. In other words, it was a case of forcible, rape, forcible sexual intercourse. The police getting involved, we hope that the police will apprehend these demons and make sure that they face the full wrath of the law. Now, the thing about, rape is that in terms of evidence and the other details under the law, it could be difficult, to establish. But this looks like a straightforward case where a child who had been sent on errand was abducted by some 5 demons and then raped. So there is rape involved, there is abduction involved, there is also, some other levels of criminality involved in this particular case. That is one. Number 2 is the other matter that you brought up about what was that now?
The employee,
theft.
yeah.
Now, theft or stealing. The English, they have what they call the English Theft Act. But in our own criminal code, we have what is called stealing, right? That, in other words, you don't have a right to take another person's property. I think this section 373 or so, or 390 of the criminal code. And the punishment for it is 3 years imprisonment. But the problem we have in this country is that Nigerians have become so accustomed to taking the laws into their own hands. That girl's employer just assumed, okay, if you have stolen, then we must discipline you. So they brought some men to come and beat her up. Again, that's another offense. That's assault. If she has stolen, the best thing to do would have been to just hand her over to the policeman, to the police station. There is no justification whether the employer is not paying salaries or she's hungry. You cannot justify a felony on the grounds that you are hungry or that you are ignorant of the law or that your employer has not paid your money. No, there are procedures under the law that you can follow to seek redress. So I think generally public education will be useful to Nigerians, even to employers of labor. I think it was Mumbai talking about labor rights are routinely abused in Nigeria simply because the people too do not push the envelope. They don't insist on their rights. Apart from the police saying they are investigating in the case of theft, I imagine that the girl herself should pursue the matter. And in the case of the girl in Edo State, I think, the Edo State government, if they have a body, as they do in Lagos, about child abuse, about violence against persons, that agency also should come to the rescue of that lady. And then also, there are lawyers who can take up the matter pro bono to defend the rights of the girl child, to speak against violence, and also to say, child abuse, whether it is rape or any form of persecution, is not allowed. Those, I think, are the details broadly. But what does all of these stories that you have brought today, what do they tell us? What they simply tell us is that we're living in a problematic society where we have some human beings who just behave anyhow. And unless you enforce the law and you call those persons to order and make them to go through the due process of law, you will continue to have people misbehaving. What is the difference between men and animals? It's because of the rule of law. That's how we have moved from the Obesian state of nature to a civilized society. Nigerians who misbehave here, they will not do the same thing in other places. So why are we like this?
I feel like you want to say something quickly.
Very quickly. If we're going to defeat this kind of incidents, rape in society, all hands must be on deck. I say this because one of the people that was mentioned was the traditional ruler of Okpela, who took up this case with his wife and didn't protect or shield the perpetrators, as we see in some communities where they like to hush this incident, and took it up with the law, and the Edo State government acted. I remember when DSVA was doing the activism in Lagos last year, one thing that was very significant was their use of tradition, if I can use the word use, but employing the influence of traditional leaders to push their campaign. When traditional leaders begin to speak up in their communities against these terrible actions, we might see a change. No hiding, no, oh, keep it quiet, don't disgrace that. It is the men that ought to be disgraced and brought to the book. So kudos to Oku Okpelagbe of Okpela, who stood up with his wife against this when this video went viral. If this must end in our society, all hands, traditional rulers, religious leaders, and the states, the law, must work together to stop this menace.